بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah Ta'ala, we started at the 1/4 point of the 4th juz, so that we were in Surah Al-Imran. We finished Surah Al-Imran, and inshallah we'll start Surah An-Nisa, and we'll finish the 4th juz and reach the 1/4 mark of the 5th juz, inshallah. As we were talking about last night, Surah Al-Imran, the first part of the surah, the bulk of it, is a response to the delegation that came and met with the Prophet ﷺ. The second half and towards the end is given to the Muslims in the wake of Uhud, and sort of reminding them what happened at Badr as well as what happened at Uhud. The verses that are perhaps useful for us to reflect upon for today, at the beginning, we actually read these very early on today, wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah ta'ala says that you should struggle and compete and vie with one another towards something, right? And we'll talk about it in just a bit. But the word that is used is very interesting, sari'u, which means to struggle or to compete or to sort of have this competition mutually with one another, is a very interesting way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to have this type of an attitude towards إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. So by our very nature, we as human beings, we are very competitive people, right? We try to compete in terms of wealth, in terms of family, in terms of who has the biggest house, who has the fanciest car. People compete over the silliest things, right? We compete when it comes to careers. We compete when it comes to sports, right? The world's biggest competition is going on right now with the World Cup. So in all of these things, we see that there's an element of people trying to win at something, right? But when you compete in terms of the dunya, there's always going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser, right? You can't have everybody win, right? This isn't like Little League where everybody gets a participation prize. When it comes to matters of dunya, eventually somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that rather than direct your complete efforts to winning in the dunya, because if you win in the dunya, somebody else has to lose, and if you lose, somebody else will win, right? So rather than trying to put forth your full effort in this world, Allah says, compete and put that same emotion and that same energy to the forgiveness of your Lord, right? And the beautiful thing about that is that there doesn't have to be a loser, right? Everybody can be eligible. All of mankind is eligible for the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it's not some small thing, right? It's not some limited thing, right? So we've got, again, going back to the World Cup, right? Only one country can win, right? There's only one trophy. Not everybody will get a trophy, right? So one team will be declared the champion, whereas here Allah is saying everybody can be declared the champion, because He then describes and gives an example of how vast His mercy is. وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So compete for the forgiveness of your Lord and paradise itself, and so that we don't think that paradise is some small place with like limited, first come, first serve type of thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that the paradise whose vastness is bigger than the heavens and the earth. We know from a very well-known hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the last person to enter into Jannah, right, he will be brought out from hell, and then he'll be put on the brink between hell and heaven, and he'll be looking longingly towards heaven. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask him, is there something that I can do for you? Because he would have been in hell, and Allah says, can I do something for you? Because he's a believer. He'll say, can you just take me to the edge of the hellfire? He'll take him there. And then he says, can I do something else? And then he'll take him, can you put me outside of hell, but not in Jannah, just in this barrier? So when he's in this boundary between heaven and hell, Allah will ask him, is there something else that I can do for you? And he'll say, Ya Rab, give me just a small portion of Jannah, right? And so Allah will give him the smallest piece of Jannah, and the hadith says that the smallest piece of Jannah is 7 times the size of this world. Right? That's the smallest piece of Jannah. Right? So Jannah is vast. It's a tremendously vast, unimaginable place, and if you try to sit there and think how big Jannah really is, your head will start hurting. Right? But that's something we should do, just to imagine how amazingly vast the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. So there doesn't have to be a loser. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you compete for this, you can be a winner, your brother can be a winner, your neighbor can be a winner, people who came before you can be winners, and people who come after you can be winners. There doesn't have to be any losers because the prize is so vast. Right? So Allah says, أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, that this has been prepared for the people of Taqwa. Right? So there's that theme again that we saw, that this month of Ramadan is so that we can develop Taqwa. Allah says, but this Jannah is made for the people of Taqwa. So last night we heard 5 qualities of the people of Iman, and now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives other qualities of the people of Taqwa, and it's very useful for us to sort of take heed and to listen to it very carefully. So what is the first quality, the first characteristic of these people? الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, that those who spend both in times of comfort as well as in times of distress. In other words, when they're financially able, they give, and even when they're financially not in a good state, they still give something. Right? They may not be able to give as much, but they fight the nafs, they fight the mind which says, no, you need to hold on to this, you need to save it. They still give something. Right? So, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, because giving both in times of prosperity as well as in times of adversity has different types of struggle. So when you're prosperous, when we're in a good state, it's very easy to forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? When we're happy, everything's going fine, it's very easy, and that's just human nature. So the person who's in a state of prosperity, who then remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, says, it is Allah who's given me this wealth, it is Allah who's given me this comfort, so I'm still going to give, because ultimately I know that nothing that I've gained or earned is because of my own accord, that's Allah who's done it. Right? So الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ, that they give in times of prosperity, in times of financial plentiness, and then وَالضَّرَّاءِ, and also in times of difficulty, because the struggle there, the difficulty there, is that one has to go against the nafs which says to hold on to it, save it for something else, but still that person recognizes that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's given them even that little bit that they have. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who can reverse their fortunes, who can take them from a state of disparity into prosperity, into a state of lessness, into a state of muchness, so they still give for His sake. Right? They give still for His sake. So الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, that's the first quality of the people of Taqwa, that they give both in times of prosperity as well as in times of adversity. Then وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, that these are people that literally they swallow their anger. Right? They swallow their anger. They refrain from unleashing and getting angry, even though they may have a right to get angry at someone or something. And this we know is perhaps one of the most difficult things to do. When we get angry, it feels good to let it out. It feels good to yell or to hit something or to break something or whatever it might be. But because this is a difficult thing to do, Allah puts this as a quality of the people of Taqwa. That these are people, Allah doesn't say that these are people who don't get angry. Because that's not natural. It's natural to become angry over things that upset us, and we should get angry about things like, for example, when we hear about what's happening to our brothers and sisters all across the world, that is a righteous anger to have. So there is beneficial anger, and as long as that anger is then channeled towards constructive things rather than destructive things, then it can be a good thing. So if that anger makes you stand up in the middle of the night to pray 2 rak'ahs for the people that are suffering overseas, that's good anger. Right? That's the anger that you should use to get up. Right? So people want to serve Islam, but nobody wants to bench press their blanket off them to stand up for tahajjud. Right? Everyone wants to serve Islam, but the blanket's too heavy for us to bench press off of our chest to stand up for tahajjud and things like that. So what وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, Allah says, it doesn't say that those people who don't get angry, but rather those people who swallow their anger, who refrain from demonstrating their anger when anger comes to them. Right? وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. And then وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, These are people that pardon other people, right? And so the concept of pardoning, which is different from forgiving, right? So this is why when we read last night at the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, وَعَفُ عَنَّا وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا, right? So we ask for Allah to pardon us and then to forgive us. So pardoning means to forgive someone without taking them into account or without asking them for any time served or any recompensation. So for example, they have what's known as the presidential pardon, right? The president is allowed to pardon somebody who's found guilty, who's sentenced to prison, but the president can say, I'm pardoning this person, and that person has to be let go. So they don't have to serve the punishment that's meted out. They don't even have to say that they're sorry or whatever it might be. They don't have to bring forth evidence that, hey, I'm not guilty, I didn't do it. Right? So that's what pardoning is when the person who has power forgives someone who has done something wrong without that person doing anything to deserve that forgiveness. So that's why that's put first. Right? وَعْفُ عَنَّا. And then وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا is to forgive us when we then make tawbah, when we make istighfar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now coming back to this ayah that we're talking about today, وَلَعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those people who pardon other people. In other words, it's not pardoning when somebody comes and says, you know, Ya akhi, I'm sorry, I said such and such a thing, or I did such and such a thing against you, please forgive me. When you forgive that person, of course that's a good thing, but that's maghfirah, right? Because they've come now and they've asked you to forgive them, so that's maghfirah. But when وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ are those people when somebody has wronged us and they remain stubborn in their ways, they don't even apologize, they don't even feel bad, they may even feel proud and happy of what they've done or what they've said against you, but still you know that if you forgive them, that the benefit is there for you more than there is for them. So you say that, oh Allah, for your sake I forgive my brother, oh Allah, for your sake I forgive my sister. This is وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Those people who pardon other people even though they have the right to demand some type of forgiveness or some type of justice from them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these are the qualities, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, that these are the qualities of the people of ihsan. And then the final quality, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُم, those people, if they have committed something lewd or they've wronged themselves, ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ, that they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So it doesn't say that Allah doesn't say that these are people who don't sin. He says that these are people that they sin because it is natural, it is human nature to commit a sin. But the people of ihsan, the people of taqwa, what makes them different is when they commit something wrong, when they say something wrong, immediately ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ, they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ, then they make istighfar, they seek forgiveness for their sins. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, very beautifully, He asks a rhetorical question, وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, that who will forgive sins other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so these are some things that we should think about and keep in mind, that these are the qualities of the people of taqwa, these are the qualities of the people of ihsan, and when we inshallah try to implement these qualities and inculcate these qualities, this is when inshallah we'll be competing for that maghfirah of Allah and the Jannah of Allah, and we talked about how vast that is. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those people. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.